All right. Well, people, there was an explosion in Beirut, and they basically it decimated their port. It decimated the whole city. The shockwave alone took out all the glass and damaged the side of the building that was facing the blast for over 10 miles. 10 miles. Cars were flipped upside down. The port itself was actually completely destroyed. That's where all their food, they had something like, I think they said 70 or 80% of all of their grain for their people that were, it was going to be exported, but also everything they import for food. Forget about restaurants, forget about stores. And they won't have anything to resupply. That place is going to be uh, unlivable. Okay. Uh, so they're looking for their children. They're looking for nieces and nephews. There's people that, it's going to be, it's a whole city 10 miles around that port. First, it started out 70 died because they knew that's how many people were in that area. Then they went to 100. They were already fighting COVID and having, where you wouldn't want to go to the hospital. Now they're saying only extreme injuries should be admitted to the hospital. So I'm trying to find out information about it, and I was looking at it, and I watched the tape, and I put my mind to the problem, and it looked to me, it looked like a terrorist attack, and it looked like an explosion of on the magnitude of like a small tactical nuke. That's what it looked like. It did have a mushroom cloud, and it had a shockwave that went out 10 miles, at least 10 miles. There was a fire before it, but I don't think that fire caused that explosion. I'll get into a few things that they talk about, but first I was going to say too, in trying to find news about this, I saw what is in the screen in front of you. And ABC News had put out a video. It was their news that they released as a video. Well, it's been deleted. It says deleted by user. This is the photo you see in front of you. 70 dead in explosion. It's gray up top. There's nothing there. Okay. When you clicked on the video, which is the tab at the bottom that I had, that's across the bar, it just has an exclamation point, and it says this. This video is private. Since when does a news media outlet put out video and then make it private? So they put out something that they weren't supposed to or something, and then so I'll go into some pictures real quick. Hopefully they will realize that they should release that video, or maybe someone archived it, or it's gone in the ether. Who knows? I'm going to show some pictures of the whole thing, but I did want to bring this up also. The actual event looked to me, when I put my mind to it, I saw that there was a fire. I saw the column of fire and smoke of what it was burning. And then there were several, what I'm going to call, because they did say that there was a fireworks place next to it, storing fireworks. No. What I'm going to call charges in a circle, and then the one in the center, and then the massive explosion. So there was 4 or 5 charges, I'm gonna call them, in a semicircle. Though it was not like fireworks where you would have a report, where you would have, the noise, where you would have um, uh, more smoke. It was a flashbang, kind of a light. And it formed a semicircle starting from the right and going around. And then the one in the center, immediately after it went off, the whole thing blew up. Well, then it created an explosion that created a mushroom cloud. And anytime you see an explosion, you should get behind a wall because the shockwave's coming. Those people were just people. They didn't know. So now you know, and you can watch from what happened to them. They got a lot of damage from glass, flying glass, pieces of debris, pieces of building. And so you can protect yourself by staying, well, you can get underground, even if it's in a manhole, something. You got to get protected somehow. I wouldn't advise that. I am saying, though, under a bridge behind concrete is safer than out in the open in a city street where all of the blast is going to be directed in between the buildings. So it's going to follow the path of least resistance. It's like air trying to escape a air compressor leak or hose leak. So, all right. So I looked at it, though, and after those charges, and I saw the explosion, and then I'm like, wait a second, that's definitely a bomb. Well, they wanted to say that there was a storage facility there with a bunch of ammonium nitrate. And then they wanted to say, oh, it was similar to the Oklahoma City bombing or whatever. Well, there's a problem with that. The problem is that there was a fire first, and then there was that ammonium nitrate is in one area, they say, but they say that close to that is 2 other things that's being stored. One was fireworks. They said they stored fireworks there. But the other was a stockpile of weapons that were seized from terrorists. So within that stockpile of weapons, someone could have had something in there that was already set to go, or they went in there and they used that fire. I mean, I think that this was a sophisticated, very sophisticated, very what's the word? I can't say well planned because I think the people probably died in it that were in it. But I think that either they were trying to retrieve their weapons that they had taken from them, or they were sent there to detonate them where they were. Later, it came out that there was that munition stockpile, but the country's leader, which they've had problems with their leadership and all kinds of stuff going on out there anyhow, but the country's leader said, and they have terrorist stuff all the time, but the country's leader said that he wanted to blame it on the warehouse that's been sitting there for I don't know how many years now with the ammonium nitrate in it. Well, if that's the case, that it was so volatile and dangerous, wonder why they put anything like fireworks or anything that was more volatile that would react with it near it. So it's not the fault of the ammonium nitrate. It's the possible ignition source that they put right next to it. And then the way it looks, the whole thing from video looks like there was a whole lot of things going on at the same time at that area. But I think everybody that was in that area on one side or the other is no longer here on this planet anyways. So they can't tell you about it. So I don't know how they're going to trace who funded what or what happened. But they do have ways of figuring things out. But I just wanted to mention this, that it's so deep that they make their news private. Okay, that's not like private, like you're private, then you're private first class. Isn't? No, this is just for nobody's eyes but their own. So I'm gonna get in some of these pictures here, and then I'm gonna show this video, and then I will do a live later. But I wanted to show this. I thought that this was important to show. I've taken lots of pictures in it's all the same explosion in sequence that I've screenshotted. So this is the dome of the explosion. That is the part of the mushroom cloud with the column of smoke that was already burning, but the explosion was so big it put the fire out in the column. That's why it's black. You see that bow shock wave there? That is part of the shockwave mushroom cloud. Okay. That was the fire before the explosion. That was part of the the detonation captured still image. That's how a red column of smoke came up. All of those high pressure blasts around it are the escaping high velocity air, highly compressed air. So there again, the column, the explosion, it almost has a face in it. If you look in it, that's kind of creepy. It's almost like some kind of a face with hair on top. I don't know what to say about that, unless that's pixelated out from something or something. I don't know. So here's another one, and you can feel free to check it out on your own. It has another face in it, it looks like. That is part of the bow shockwave, the mushroom cloud coming out. Again, after that mushroom cloud. It's just so devastating. The explosion itself is just massive. Some people have already theorized that it looks like about a 2.4 to 2.7 kiloton explosion. 10 miles out, it blew the front half of people's houses off and made their glass just gone. And there's no glass manufacturing companies in Beirut. I guess maybe even in Lebanon, but anything they would want to bring into the port's decimated. There's nothing left, and I don't even think the cranes. I don't think that the steel is strong enough to pick anything up. It's probably brittle, to the point where you could push it over and it would collapse on itself. I wouldn't go nowhere near the place without a Geiger counter. That's where I'm at on it. But if it was just a chemical type of explosion, this is going to be the largest one to date ever. I mean, it's so big. Like, this is before it's exploding. This is, you had to stop it there. That's afterwards. This is the port. This was the port. It is no longer a port. Um, not one roof piece of metal is, I mean, just the expanding, the metal that goes across there, the trusses. Uh, don't know how well this will show up because I've done live before and done this and it was all grainy, so I don't know, but it looks clear to me. Of course, I'll watch it when I'm done and see how well it did, but that was a building that was on the port, and like there's nothing really left of it. That's where I'm thinking they knew the 70 people were working. People are running around looking for their kids. That's part of that shockwave in the mushroom cloud. There's the circle in the middle of the mushroom cloud looking from underneath. People weren't able to hold their phones for very long because as soon as that shockwave hit them, it blew glass into them and blew them off their feet, and they dropped their phone, and none of them picked it back up and just started videoing again. They were all hurt. Nobody went back and videoed right after. I think one apartment building a long ways out got some after footage of it, but it was first it blew the phone out of their hand and blew them down. This was a priest was giving mass, was in the church, and he's running. That cross was lit up because all the windows up top blew into the church and blew all those pieces. This is the priest running right here. At first he sat there and was trying to continue, but when the blast happened, it almost blew him to start running. So this is a little before that where he was standing. All the windows above that go across the top, there's windows, and that stuff flying in from the windows, it blasted in. There's him running. See, I took a few different shots. That this is not necessarily in order, but and a picture of Jesus coming down, and it's there's the blast for anybody that understands weaponry that wants to archive that. You can basically still frame some of these news shots. Some of them have, there's a compilation video. I'll put a link up to it. You can do that. You can check that out. Compilation of all of them. Miss one? Is that the last one? That's the last one I got, I believe. No, okay. I was going to say, I thought I took a lot more. That was the column of smoke from the fire. That was when it exploded. So if ammonium nitrate gives off red, then it could have been a secondary thing to the explosion that the terrorists, because I believe they were terrorists that did all this. If they set off an explosion next to the ammonium nitrate, of course it's going to go up, but it's not going to be a clean burn, and maybe that's why it's all red. I think that if it was the ammonium nitrate itself that exploded, I think it would have been a cleaner burn than all of that red. I think a lot of that was just scattered material from the explosion around it, and it just happened to be some of it was ammonium nitrate, or a bunch. They were storing a lot. They were saying it was almost 3,000 tons. It was like 2,700 tons of ammonium nitrate they were storing at that place. So that would be like 130 18-wheeler loads at 49,000 pounds. So because the tons like 2,001 pounds. And look at this. The only reason there's a void there, it was a mushroom cloud, but it was just happening. But that void is just because of the building. It had blocked some of it, but it blew the building apart. it would have been a shaped just like a mushroom if it hadn't been for the building being on one side of it. You gotta understand they weren't in the ground. So, and that's just the video was released, and then that's the next video. So you can see the column goes up to the middle and makes a mushroom cloud. There's a lot more to this. I'm going to try to go into that video real quick. Now, when I play this, it's going to show a little bit of the reporter thing. She goes to someone else, and then immediately you're going to see this explosion. So if you're wanting to watch this explosion, it's going to go immediately. Check this out. Let's see if I can rotate it and make it work. Okay. Immediately after I hit this, there's going to be the explosion. Okay, here we go. Right? But you see how quick they dropped their phone?
And it looked like a mushroom cloud.
It was a mushroom cloud.
Beirut Tuesday, so massive it shook the ground all the
Car
way to
upside down.
150 miles away.
150 miles away, it rocked Cyprus.
The level of devastation is still being assessed, with widespread destruction stretching for miles from the epicenter near Beirut's port. Firefighters and emergency workers rushed to the scene, one that the city's governor, Marwan Aboud, described as resembling Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Local hospitals were immediately inundated.
At
with
2 minutes in is where they say that they know there were terrorist weapons being stored that were confiscated. They were being stored right next to that place.
Thousands injured and dozens dead, with the number of dead surely to rise in the hours to come. Initially, the state news agency attributed the cause of the blast to a fire at a fireworks warehouse, but shortly afterwards, the head of Lebanese security said the explosion happened at the site of confiscated high explosive materials. Lebanon's Prime Minister Hassan...
Confiscated high explosive materials. Okay. All of that ammonium nitrate that was being stored there was not the only explosive materials that was being stored. Not everybody over there would have been using ammonium nitrate. I'm pretty sure that they were storing other munitions close to that. The fireworks thing, it was, I think, even further away. Whatever it was, the explosion itself was on the order of magnitude of a tactical nuke. So, either they've got like a Moab kind of a situation there, or I wouldn't go there without a Geiger counter. Seriously. But I'll play this.
Diab later said it is unacceptable that a shipment of an estimated 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate was stored in a warehouse.
But it's been stored there for years. 6 years now.
That is, the country
no
launched
problems.
An investigation into the cause, expecting an initial report in the coming days. The Lebanese president has ordered military patrols in the wake of the incident in a country already on its knees due to a failing economy and the spread of COVID-19. The Lebanese prime minister has announced that Wednesday will be a day of mourning. Ben Weekman, CNN.
Yeah, I don't think you had to announce that. I think they
Thanks,
were
and we'll
already
get
there.
more from Ben a little bit later on in the show. Meanwhile, we do know that hospitals in and around Beirut are inundated with the wounded. A security source tells Reuters many victims were taken outside the city for treatment. Ambulances were brought into the capital from the north and the south of the country, we understand. President is said to be scouring the hospitals looking for family and friends.
My nephew is 29 years old. From 7 in the evening, we've been all over every hospital in Beirut. And now we are waiting for the names to come out, and nothing has come out. We don't know if he is dead or alive. We just don't know.
We have at least 300 wounded in the hospital right now. We have 6 operating suites that are still operating right now. And this keeps filling up with another group that needs attention. We have about 4 to 5 in intensive care. We have 3 that arrived dead. Every one of our crew, doctors and nurses, are operating. Even administration. Everyone is working. Well, I want to go straight now to Jumana Karaches following these developments from Istanbul. And Jumana, I know we've got live pictures coming into CNN, and it's morning, very early morning there in Beirut. And these images that we're seeing now, as you can see, daylight.
You see that?
People waking up to this devastation. And those of us who've covered stories, this looks like a tsunami or even a nuclear wasteland. The devastation.
She said it right, nuclear wasteland.
It's just utterly staggering.
So I'm going to pause this. Okay. So here's what I'm saying. Okay. That was the port. All of their food was there. Everything they ship out is there. Everything they bring in is there. Mostly they bring stuff in. All of their food stores of grain was there for I don't know how many years, but they said something about, like, I think they said 85% of their food was there. They're going to need more food for those people. They may just want to have those people leave the city and assimilate elsewhere, just because you can't even build infrastructure. And I don't know if it's radiated or not. And they've even had some testing where they've had smaller ones that weren't radioactive so much as they were just explosive, but surely there would be some type of trace amount of it, and it can't be good for people. So either way, that was a well executed whatever it was. That was sophisticated is what I'm saying. It was very I don't know. I think that the fire was diversionary. I mean, I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's such a huge explosion. It would have been several small explosions, I think, if it was a bunch of different munitions and a bunch of different things going off. And I don't know about that ammonium nitrate stuff. I just don't know that it would do that. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. It's like the forbidden experiment. Who would ever test doing that with that ammonium nitrate? So, but you see what it did. And 10 miles out was the blast zone, plus 10 miles plus. But they said, 150 miles away, they could feel it. It set off all of the earthquake seismometers. I mean, I don't know what magnitude, but there's something to that. So somebody's funneling something really bad to bad people. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to get off this thing. I will do a live later. I wanted to show this because you can't imagine the damage until you see it like this. But it was a mushroom cloud. I put up all the links, all the videos, and I'm going to put them in a playlist, and it's going to be named Beirut or Beirut Lebanon. I might change. There's that. Y'all stay safe. I'm going to get off this thing. This is and the president also said that his generals that looked at the video also came to the same consensus, is that it was a terrorist attack. So I'm not sure what the actual hell's going on over there, but there's news, and then there's news that gets deleted. How can you find anything out when there's that going on? So maybe they'll re-release that video. Maybe that was a mistake. Or they said something they shouldn't have. I don't know. Stay safe. I'm gonna get off this thing. I'm out. I'll do a live later so you can chime in on it. So I'm out.